Hello everyone, how we all doing today? This is an awesome Monday, or what would I call it? But sure, we are back again, right? We are back again, yes.
Yeah.
And like we told you, this is going to be a continuous series, and we have some nice twisted, not really twisted, but interesting topic, because the topic we are looking at today is something I would say almost everyone who is in a workplace, virtually makes use of. And of course, you want to do some things. There are most things you want to do, you find yourself making use of the topic for today. But of course, before I proceed, I would like to introduce myself and everyone on the call. My name is Promise Uche Unwachku. I'm an Azure MVP, also one of the leaders for the Azure Nigeria community. And today I have on the call awesome personalities with me, right? Fellow MVPs, right? None other than Raphael Gabmomo. Hello, Raphael. Do you have one or two things
Hey,
to say?
it's nice to be with you again.
Awesome.
The dinner gets sweeter talking about these
Yeah.
things.
Awesome. So Raphael, like he's an Azure MVP and also one of the community leaders for the Azure Nigeria community. And of course, he's going to be on the show with us today. Yes, interestingly, I have an additional speaker for today. And of course, today we have in the house one of the very first females to lead the Azure Nigeria community. And she did excellently well. Of course, I'm sure those of you who are used to our community might be taking a guess. But of course, she's none other than MVP Oluwatosi Anishere. Oluwatosi, do you have anything to say to our audience?
Hello, I promise I Raphael. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, as usual, and I'm glad to share my knowledge with the people. So, really happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tosin. Thank you very much, Raphael. Right. I think it's about time we start eating the rice and the stew with Azure, mixing everything together and dishing out a very delicious meal. Of course, the topic we want to be looking at today is none other than what? Deploying and managing Azure compute resources. Right. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, and hopefully you all can as well follow through with me, right? To see how this goes. Yes. Now, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. Raphael and Tosi, please can I confirm? You can see my
Yes, I
screen?
can see your screen. I can see clearly.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. So, like I said, today we are looking at the topic deploying and managing Azure compute resources. Now, before we begin to talk or before we deep dive into it, MVP Raphael, can you just give us an overview on what are compute resources? Just imagine our audience are trying to learn about Azure and they're having to have like a basic understanding on what compute resources are. Please, can you just give us some little brief summary on what compute resources
Oh,
are?
okay, thank you very much, Promise. Okay, so I'm going to use real life scenarios and examples, just like as we've been doing from previous sessions. Okay, so I know that this meeting that we are having currently as we speak, there is no way that the meeting will be possible if we do not have networking. You have networking on your side, and I have networking on my side. Okay, so let's assume that Promise wants to type something on his computer. Oh, I told him, oh, Promise, a contract just came from Azure Rock, and please draft something quickly. Okay, now we like talking in billions because we are men of faith. Promise, quickly draft something. Now let me tell you, Promise would be able to open his MS Word and type, and whatever he's typing, it will be processed into what he wants, because your computer has the capability to do computational activities. Okay, so in Azure, your computer should be able to, in Azure, you should be able to do computational activities. You should be able to process workload. If you want to type something, you should be able to do it. Okay, and the one of the most important things that we have there is virtual machine. But that does not mean it's only virtual machine we're talking about. The topic today stretches a little bit long. Anything that we can use to do computational activity with regards to Azure Cloud is what we're talking about today. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I don't know. MVP Tosi, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, just a few. Thank you, Raphael, for that contribution. Just in addition to what you have said, when we think of compute, it basically has to do with running applications or something that perform calculations or, just execute that workload for us, And like Raphael has mentioned, we have VMs, very common, especially within the space of Azure, but those are not the only compute services we have. We have others as well, which I'm sure as we get on, we'll mention them. App services is one of those. Container instances is one of those. Kubernetes, and so on and so forth, which I believe as we move further, we will talk about as part of compute resources that are particularly available in Azure. Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I like to add.
I mean, guys, you are getting the dishes live and direct. You know what it means to have three MVPs in the house breaking down a topic for you. I mean, this is like a full wealth of knowledge given to you free of charge, right? And of course, one of the things we do as MVPs is to be able to share this knowledge and bring people into the fold of knowing how to make use of Azure and all the resources we have in the Azure platform. All right, we'll be proceeding on our session for today, and let's see what the learning platform has for us. All right, so as we can see, I'm clicking on the start button, and here basically it just talks about the learning objectives for today, which will border around IaaS, virtualization, resource provisioning in the cloud environment. And maybe we could ask one of our MVPs in the house to do some display or some demo for us today if we have the time. Awesome, guys. So let's move on. These are basically just introductory materials, right? But here we have an interesting section in this topic, and it's basically talking about things to know about Azure Virtual Machine. And the very first thing it highlights is that what Azure Virtual Machine is what the basic infrastructure as a service model. And if you remember when MVP Raphael and MVP Tosin were speaking, they always mention virtual machine, Azure Virtual Machine. That means that this here is telling you that we are referring to what? The same component. Now, I would like to call MVP Raphael to give us some details about the second point he raised. He says the virtual machine provides its own operating system, storage, network capabilities, and can also run a wide range of applications. So MVP Raphael, when you were introducing the session,
Okay.
the very first point you actually did, go into was the ability for virtual machines to be able to network, and the fact that I could be where I am, you could be where you are, Bitosi could be where she is, and we all can connect. Can you give us some more little details about that?
Yes. The exciting thing about virtual machine is that it is just like a computer. Okay, a virtual machine It's a computer. Now, if you look at your computer has compute capabilities, networking capabilities. I'm sure that you have a video, one video or two, no matter how religious you are. You have a video or two, you have one music or two. Now, that is possible because you have your computer has storage capabilities. Now, the same way your computer can store things, a virtual machine can store things. Okay, so now the thing I like, I don't know if I'm veering off your question, but the thing I like about virtual machine the most is that it allows you to rent these things from the cloud provider, okay? And you're renting network compute storage, and you're paying as you go, as you use it. Now, it's different from every other cloud service because it gives you more control. You have the capability to choose your operating system. Okay, you can choose. Oh, that control it gives you that capability to say, oh, I don't want to use Windows Server. Oh, I want to use Linux for my workload. So you have total control over that machine. Okay, that's one thing I like the most about yes, virtual machines with regards to what we're talking about.
Awesome. Thank you very much, MVP Raphael. I mean, I actually like the way you break these things down and give various scenarios as to what we are speaking of at the point in time. All right, so I'm going to ask this to MVP Tosi, right? And generally, it's a known concept about how virtual machines, operate. But here, if you look at the third point here, it says you can be able to implement multiple virtual machines and configure each virtual machine with different software and settings to support separate operational scenarios. Now, MVP Tosi, we've all been hearing about this word virtual machine. Now, in this particular context, can you give us more details as to how it's possible to be able to implement multiple virtual machines with the various workloads for each of them? Hello, MVP Tosin, are you there with us? All right. Okay. So
Yes,
before
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
yes,
Oh,
I can
sure.
hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I said
All right.
yes, I can add to that basically. Yeah, when
Okay.
Raphael was speaking, he was trying to describe this virtual machine, and he said something that stood out, that is just like a laptop, or should I say physical computer, of course, which laptop is a part of smartphone and the rest of them, and it consists of you having a CPU, memory, disk, and all of those. So in essence, the virtual machine is just that virtual computer, not the physical one you can touch, but that software-defined computer. If I get your question correctly, you're asking me how does that machine work and how can you have different software? There's one thing
Exactly.
called virtualization.
Yeah.
Basically, that virtualization is that process where one can create software based. Now, the software based there is what we call virtual, basically. And I remember Raphael saying something like you can configure Linux machine, you can configure Windows machine. So that software based, so you're configured based on Linux software or based on Windows software. So what you're doing is you're configuring that on a borrowed physical host. And that's a borrowed machine. It's not yours. And I remember Raphael using the word rent. So it's more or less like renting, these storage spaces or memory in order to be able to configure that software base. And basically, what can you use this VM for? I don't know if I'm answering beyond what you said.
Mm,
One can use it to, deploy apps to the cloud.
yeah.
One can use it to try new operating system, which I've mentioned earlier, including all of those releases. You can use it to back up and so on and so forth. And there's so many benefits. I won't like to digress from the question, but yeah,
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, MVP Tosin, for that. I mean, that is really, really awesome. So, guys, like I told you, you can see, I mean, there are lots of juices in this particular topic. MVP Raphael has just spotted me. He wants to say something, but I have one juicy section or question for him right now. So I'm going to ask him that question, and then, in fact, anytime I think of this question, something pops up to my mind, and I think it's something for the ladies. But anyway, let's see how MVP Raphael will go about this. Now, one of the points it raises here, which is an interesting feature or things you should know about virtual machines, is the fact that you can what scale up and scale down with demand and pay for only what you use. Now, MVP Raphael, you've said this over and over again, but of course, something comes to my mind when it says you can easily scale up, you can easily scale down. And a particular section for ladies is coming to my mind, but let me leave it up to MVP Raphael to give us some more details about that.
Okay, so guys, we stay in an estate. Okay, I love akara. I'm an akara seller. Okay, and I make the best akara in the whole estate. Now, all of a sudden, Promise works in a TV station and news, and Promise comes, each one of my akara, it goes to the TV station. It says this is the best akara in the whole country. What do you think is going to happen to my business the next day? No, you answer the question, Promise.
Man, it's going to explode.
It's going to blow. There'll be so many people line. So the thing is this: if I was using 2 fry pan to fry my akara, okay, and I have 2 workers working with me, at that point it means that I need to go and get 10 fry pan. I need to go and get maybe like 15 more workers. If not, I'll have issues. Okay. So now, with regards to the cloud, you are all aware that, okay, let me even use this scenario. Okay, the very first company I worked with when I left university was a games company. Now let me tell you, the heaven, the mecca of every games company is to break into the China market or break into the USA market. Why? Because the Chinese man, when he's stressed, the next minute he goes and plays games. So if as a game studio, you only 1.2 or 2% of the Chinese population love your game, you don't have already, because you'll have 1 million downloads. And as at that time, I graduated from university 2013. As at 2013, when you have this little adverts on that game, you are making $25,000 every day. So just imagine the game studio is having only one virtual machine hosting that game. What do you think is going to happen to it?
It will crash.
It will crash. So the game studio needs to have capacity. When there is too much traffic coming in, they need to have multiple virtual machines that will host the application. So when traffic is plenty, more machines will come. When traffic reduces, it will go back. So you can scale out and scale in. Okay. So I hope I have answered your question.
Awesome. You really delve deep dive into this MVP Raphael. But the thing I was also mentioning that comes to my mind each time I hear scaling and scale out is probably the Black Fridays.
Exactly.
No.
Black
Say that again. Say
Fridays.
that again.
Yeah. It's usually
And I
Black
said it's
Fridays.
for the
You know?
ladies,
Oh,
right?
yes, Black Fridays. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, because when it comes to
Because
that sales, that's when there's usually traffic. I'm using site for an instance. There's traffic on the site, and for that reason, companies usually require more workload, and as a result, they tend to scale up by probably changing their performance level or increasing the resources. And of course, when there's no more traffic on the site that all of you can scale them because it's not needed, at that particular point in time. And I would like to also mention that scaling, the act of scaling up and down, is you scaling, vertically up and down. And there's also in and out, which Raphael did mention, maybe in terms of, particularly I'll say, when developers, in this instance of scaling in and out, probably having more databases, just to divide their large database into that, section of small nodes, or using that something we call sharding, data partitioning approach. And also, yeah, these are just the various scale. We can scale up, scale down, we can scale in, scale out. So yeah, that's my addition to what Rafael has mentioned.
Awesome, awesome. So all you guys, I mean, you can imagine all of the things MVPTOC has in her list so that she can get, easy and cheap pastors in when Black Friday is on. I mean, if I'm you guys, start planning, right? It's going to be happening sometime later this year, So you guys start planning for the Black Friday market because, yeah, they do have resources like this to help back up such heavy load of requests. And what MVP Tosi just spoke about is, I think, the horizontal scaling and the vertical scaling. For the horizontal, I think that is where you what's the word? Probably you add more instances, and probably for the vertical, you could add more CPU and more
RAM.
storage. Let's say in Azure now, let's say you could request for a higher CPU virtual machine. And
Right.
guys, all of this is done automatically. There's no manual stuff going in there, right? By the time you set in your configurations and everything on the portal, right, as the load requests come in and it probably hits a target which you've already preset,
Right.
right?
Right.
The scaling happens. Awesome. Thank you very much for this, MVP Rafael and MVP Tosin. All right, so MVP Tosin, this goes to you, right? Here it's saying that, I mean, when it comes to, you know, configuring and maintaining the virtual machine, the responsibilities are shared between Microsoft and the customer. I don't know if you would like to shed some light on this, MVP Tosin.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can say one or two things. When it comes to compute, it's usually being categorized under infrastructure as a service. And
Yeah.
when we have infrastructure as a service, this can be managed, majorly by customer and others by Microsoft. So that shared responsibility what customers can handle and the things Microsoft will be handling. So when it comes to operating system, when it comes to, what's it called, application, when it comes to, this figure, there are things you can manage from your hand, just like the IaaS, itself. And the other ones are the ones Microsoft basically can manage. So I don't know. I know I didn't go deep into that, but yes, that's
No,
just summary on an idea of this shared responsibility. So you don't just leave it out to Microsoft to do all of those things. You have a take in it, and that is basically what organization want to be able to do. They want to have that flexibility to have authority or to be in charge of this compute services, even though it's a rented, permit me to use the word rented, and also basically that's just a summary, not a deep dive though. Yeah, that's the
also,
overview summary.
I feel like you've given like a full picture of what that is, and it's interesting to know that, I mean, even with the picture we have here on screen, I know it's not so big, but on this we can actually see the various, will I call it the various partitions, right, on how all of these things are being, or what's the what word would I use? Let me make it bigger so that the audience can actually see what we are talking about. So I mean, just like MVP Tosi just mentioned, you can see these are the partitions in blue refer to what the customers have to manage, and the ones in gray refer to what Microsoft has to manage. Of course, as a customer, you would determine what operating system you're going to use. Microsoft's responsibility basically is to ensure that they have whatever service you want to use. But Microsoft is not going to decide what you want to use for your application. I mean, you
Right.
have to do that yourself, right?
Right.
So that is why it falls under something the customer has to handle, right? And if you see here, there is like a shared responsibility in the sense that for operating system, Microsoft has to provide the operating system, and then you have to decide what operating system we want to use. The same thing goes for network controls, application, identity and directory infrastructure, and of course, lots more. But there are some basic things, of course, that Microsoft will have to take care of when it comes to the cloud, such as those virtual machines you are actually running your applications on. Microsoft has to take full charge of that because you don't know where these machines are located. Of course, you can decide where you want them to be located, but the exact places where they are, you don't know, right? Now, these physical centers, they would definitely have like power cords. There should be networking there. There should be a cooling system there for the AC, right?
Right.
For the cooling of the systems. There should be security for the
Right.
environment.
Right.
All of these things. You don't get to bother about that because I mean that is Microsoft's responsibility. But then again, in terms of a physical host, you have to actually bring like a laptop you would use to connect to the virtual machine. So I mean, it's a shared responsibility as really denoted by this. All right, we're going to be moving on. We'll be moving on this. Yeah, and the next thing is things to consider when using IaaS and virtual machine. The very first point here on the table is consider test and development. MVP Raphael, when it comes to testing and development, can you give us a scenario where probably you've had to apply this in a project you worked on or something, and how all of that went?
Okay, so the truth about it is products don't just get released out there like that. Okay, before products get released, there has to be a team that will work on that product, and they will debug, they will test, they will ask people to check out the products before the product gets released to the market. So while you're doing all this, while you're doing all this, how do you now if you want to do this on your own in your own company, okay, it means that you need to apportion money, you need to buy machines for the developers, okay? But in the cloud you can just spin up a virtual machine, create an environment. Oh, this is dev test environment, create the virtual machines for them to use, and when they finish that testing and development, they close down that operation. It makes it cheaper for you, because if not, you will have gone to spend. And now let me tell you, if the dev team of any company want to do testing and development, it's not 8 GB RAM of computer they will use. No, they might not even use 16 GB. You're going to be talking about 32 or maybe higher. And recently I was speaking with a friend, no, not recently, in December, a MacBook Pro of 90 GB RAM. I mean, as a Nigerian, with Nigerian currency as at December, would cost up to 9 million naira. So just imagine, you as a CEO or as a CTO, you want to get like 10 copies for the testing and development team to use for that purpose alone. I mean, just look at the amount of money you're spending. But you go to the cloud, spin up a virtual machine, they finish their work, you shut it down, it saves you money. So yeah, that's
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, MVP Raphael.
thank you,
I
Jay.
mean, that was quite insightful and explanatory, right? And so I mean, it's part of the reasons why we say, our audience have a lot to enjoy. All right, for this particular section, MVP Tosi is going to be handling it. I'm actually giving her 2 points to talk about. And the 2 points to talk about here is website hosting, storage, backup, and recovery. MVP Tosi, can you shed more insight on this? How do you make use of this when it comes to virtual machines? Hello, MVP Tosi, are you there? All right, all right, all right. I think she's
Yes, I
probably.
am here. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It seems to be lagging. Like when I speak,
oh,
you don't hear me on time. No.
okay.
Okay, yeah, you said I should talk about the hosting as well as storage.
Storage, backup, and
Okay,
recovery.
so gone are those days when we want to build a site. When I mean gone are those days, like many years back, where you have to start thinking of the database, whether you want to run Apache Tomcat, I'm talking about those days, and servers and all of those things. So they are usually on the, should I say, OPEX side, sorry, CAPEX, that's the capital expenditure where you
Right.
have to, put money upfront, plan for this physical machine, and all of those. But with Azure Virtual Machine, basically the cloud benefit, you can run this site seamlessly with virtual machine, which is obviously an OPEX automatically. That's operational expenditure, which means
Yeah.
you don't have to have the cost upfront. You can pay as you go. It's what you use that you pay for. So it's far convenient than our traditional web hosting. And this is something we can do using virtual machine. So we can just have our VM deployed. And with that VM deployed, we can host a website, seamlessly. And this can be managed by you and even other, depending on, developers and how work is done. So it's really convenient in terms of web hosting. In terms of storage, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Let's take it back to something you and I can relate with. Back then, when we have the phones in those days where you have to get what's it called, memory card. You have to
Mhm.
get a physical memory card slot, put it in your phone. You realize that, oh, the 16 GB is not enough. You have to increase to 32 GB. And what that means is you have to buy another one. And God help you, it's not compatible with your phone and all. So all of such are the advantage we get with using cloud, which the VM can help us cover. We can create a VM to avoid that additional, expenses. That way we can use it as a storage. And at the storage, even when we are not using it at that moment, we can, we've talked about scale up and scale down. We can reduce the storage capacity such that we are not paying so much for what we are not using. If you have to buy, all the storage server physically, whether you are underutilizing or not,
Yeah.
you've paid for it upfront. But the advantage we have here is if you're not using, if you're under it, like you can, scale down these virtual machines and it can help, reduce a whole lot of cost. I've been on a project before, and on that project, I think the organization basically they have VMs. So of course this organization is running what's it called? They're running um they are running virtual machines. So there's at a particular point when you get to a stage, you can for underutilized system, you can scale down that resources. And by the time that was done, it helped, to reduce a lot of costs that really helped them. I'm sorry, I'm not going, too deep so that I don't take much of our time, but I'm just trying to say that it's to a big advantage in terms of storage. Of course, you can use it for backup and as well as recovery. So it's something that I think organizations are really have seen to its advantage and are really utilizing. And VM just does that work rather than having extra servers or buying, all of these things and all. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Amikito. You just mentioning this reminds me of my early days as a technical support engineer, where I had to speed up like this virtual machine in Azure, and I think I had to load it up with the Linux operating system, and I was trying to understand how Nginx work, right? And um, within I tried with Nginx, and then I tried with trying to create this website with, there's this popular template that people make use of, WordPress, exactly, right? So I tried to actually make use of WordPress on my Azure virtual machine. I was able to spin it up. I was able to set it up. Now I had a public IP, and all I needed to do was to get a domain to type the public IP to that domain. And imagine, with just that simple effort, my website was up. I mean, I don't need to rely on any third-party hosting services to be able to host my website, right? But by myself, I was able to create my website, put the kind of content I want in there, use the kind of domain I want to, and imagine all of this at some, moderate amount of or moderate cost, right? So I mean, I think this is one of the beauty of doing this. Now, MVP Raphael, I'm sure you must have seen this coming already because of the pattern of which I already asked to see
Yeah.
and we see. So you're going to take the next 2 points for us, which is what
Okay.
the high performance computing and big data analysis. Now, how do these two relate with virtual machines? And if
Okay.
possible, we would like to learn from your wealth of knowledge. So please.
Okay, so it's very
Wow.
straightforward. Okay, it's very straightforward. I think I'm going to use a point from Ted Tosin's explanation earlier. Now, now it's just the fact that if you were buying those machines on yourself, you want to do high performance computing. If you want to buy it yourself, okay. Now we're not talking about 90 GB RAM anymore. You might need a computer that is even more than 90 GB RAM, because you are talking about high performance. You might need a very high memory intensive computer for some certain calculations. Okay, so we might be talking about maybe something in millions, okay,
Yeah.
in millions, and so many costs will be involved. So why waste all this money? Why waste all this time when Microsoft has those facilities, all just with the click of button, you choosing if you want high performance computing, and you have it, and there you go. You can do your analysis and calculation. Okay, so that way it makes it easy for high performance. You just need to choose the type of operation you want to do, and the appropriate things you need will be provided for you. Then for big data analysis, okay, you have so many things, okay, so many compute types, okay, that can handle. All you just need to do is just to choose the compute type, and there you go, you have it. So it's still the same thing. Why waste money to buy when you can get this all with the click of a button? You do what you want to do and you shut down the computer. Now I want to add one last one. They say that, okay, if you don't know, every commercial bank in Nigeria has been mandated by the central bank to have their own private cloud. But the truth is, those commercial banks, they cannot, there are certain workloads that will be cheaper for them to run in the cloud. Like you cannot run a Hadoop workload on your private cloud unless you have the facilities to run Hadoop workload, okay? And it can be very, very, very expensive. So why would you use your customers' money you make from your customers to go and buy those machines when you can ask your guys to just go to the cloud, run the workload, make all the reports, shut down, and come back? And that's all I have to say.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. I mean, this has been really, really, really enlightening. It's interesting to say that based on what you shared, I think that also applies to the last part, which says extended data centers. Just imagine now, like you said, let's say before, or let's say some operational banks in Nigeria already have physical data centers, right? Where they are
Yes.
hosting their own machines and all of that. And maybe for some reason they need to, they need some extra hosts to be able to accommodate much more workload. The beautiful thing about this is that you could actually extend your data centers, making use of what? Azure virtual machines,
Right.
without having to stress about the need of buying more physical systems, thinking of the cost of accommodating for more systems, or power supply issues or
hiring a
whatever.
maintenance engineer,
Exactly, just to ensure that the machines are always up and running. So instead of you, stressing about that, you find yourself in a situation where, the Azure virtual machine comes in place and just takes all of that burden away from you. And all you need to do is probably you decide when you want to start or stop the virtual machine. And the interesting thing is that you can actually automate this process. You could
Exactly.
actually write a script and say, okay, every morning at 7 a.m. UTC, I want this machine started up. And every evening at, say, 4 p.m. UTC, I want this machine, shut down. I think that is the beautiful process of making use of this service, which we have in Azure. Trust me, this service is amazing. It's really, really, really amazing. All right, we'll continue in this. I know, we don't have much time on our side, but of course, we're going to give you the juice until we are ready to, end this particular session for the day. Now, it says something. When you're planning about your virtual machines, there are things you need to have in mind, right? When configuring your virtual machines. And the one of the things it says is it gives us about 8 points in mind, right? So now I'm going to be asking MVP Tosi to just speak on what you need to do as regarding the network. What do you need to do as regarding the name of the virtual machine? What do you need to do as regarding the location where you want this virtual machine spin up? Yes, I'm referring to the very first 3 points on the screen. MVP Tosi? I know there's usually some delay, so let me just assume that is that delay she's
Hello.
Hello, MVP.
Okay. Sorry.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome,
All right.
awesome.
Great. You said what are the things we need
Yeah.
to
So
consider, right?
yeah, when
Uh,
someone is thinking of making use of a
of a
virtual
VM.
machine and is actually thinking of deploying it in terms of the network, in terms of the name of the virtual machine, in terms of the location, can you tell us something about how this person is going to go about setting up the virtual machine?
Okay, so in terms of network configuration, you of course one has to configure the settings, and when I mean settings, that has to do with the VNet, subnet configuration, public IP address, NSG, firewall, and that's just to ensure that one has that proper network connectivity, for the system that you have. So it's really important to bear those things in mind in terms of network configuration. Also, the naming convention. You don't want to name a virtual machine in such a way that when you need it, or if especially if you're in an organization where you have so many system admins that gets to work on that virtual machine just as you don't want to have that naming that's confused. You want to have a type of naming convention that goes in line with what the virtual machine is used for, and what so there's this how will I put it? There's this naming convention that it's required for you to use. You won't just name it something out of ordinary. For instance, I'm having a storage. You can have a naming convention that picks the name of the company or what the storage is for, and having storage, just something like that. That way it gives you easy access to read and understand what that virtual machine is used for. So that's another thing you one might need to consider. I know you talked about naming network. What's the third one, please?
Yeah, the network, the naming of the virtual machine, and then the location.
Oh,
What what
location.
options what options do they have when it comes to location?
Okay, great. So when it comes to location, we have these geographic regions within Azure. We have the West US, North Europe, South Asia, and so on, just like the document on the screen as mentioned. So it's really important when configuring, when trying to, implement a virtual machine, that you choose the location that is closest to you. it's really important for you to have that. So if I'm in the US, it's better I'm choosing a location near to me, maybe West US or East US. If I'm in Europe, I choose a location near to me, and that's really important, especially when you have customer, or if you're the type that is running using your VM to run a website, and your website is your customer base or your target audience is within a particular region and all, it's usually nice that you choose those locations that is as close as possible to them. Then also, one thing one should know about location is the pricing differs. The price in a particular location differs from the price in another location. So you might always also factor that in to be able to find that particular location based on price. The first one is based on availability, where I use the website example, and the second one is based on cost. You can check to see, okay, how much does this cost in this region, or how much does that cost in that region, and that way you can use that as a basis to set up, the location for the virtual machine that you're spinning up. Yeah, that's
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. I think we are almost out of time. But before we round up for the day, I want MVP Raphael to just give us some little insights as regarding when you're working with a virtual machine. Tell me how this new user needs to, what he needs to consider as regarding size. The okay, MVP Tosin has mentioned cost. So tell me about size, storage, and operating system of the virtual machine.
Okay, so
MVP Raphael.
I want to quickly rush through because of our time. Now, the issue of size is actually still related to cost. Okay, now the size you choose determines how much you're not going to. If you have a very small workload, okay, you're hosting a playground. Maybe you're hosting yeah, a playground. A playground is like a quiz, a demo lab. You're hosting a little thing. You're not going to go and choose a very big virtual machine that is meant for data analysis. Okay, you're just going to waste money. So choose the size that is commensurate, that matches your workload, and you will spend less. Okay, now secondly, you asked me about storage. Now the truth about it is, when you download and when you deploy a virtual machine, you do not have an operating, no, sorry, no, you do not have a data disk attached to that virtual machine. Okay, you only have the OS disk. Okay, so now we do not just deploy virtual machines like that. We deploy virtual machines because we want to use them to host workload. Now you need to go and actually, in the process, you need to attach a disk to it. Okay, and that disk is provided by Azure Storage. Okay, so you charge differently for this. Next time we come to talk about this again, I will give more details. So you need to actually attach a disk for your workload. If not, you're not going to have anywhere to store whatever thing that made you to go and deploy that virtual machine in the first place. Then lastly, to round up, the operating system. Now, I like Azure. Okay, you have so many you can choose from, but even though you don't find the operating system you're looking for, you can go to the marketplace. You can go to the marketplace and go search for what you're looking for, and you will get it. There was a particular deployment I was trying to do, and I needed to use confidential computing. Now, if you just go to the list, it is not there. I needed to go to the marketplace, and I got it from the marketplace. So that's all I have to say for now.
Awesome, awesome. Right, very right on time. Thank you very much, MVP Raphael, for that explanation. I mean, it's been pretty much awesome today, guys. It's been pretty much awesome today. And we've been able to cover some, I think we've been able to shed some interesting light about making, configuring, and managing your Azure virtual machine. But the interesting thing, guys, is that this series is continuing, it's not stopping. So, yes, we may be ending right now the session for today, but we are not ending the series. So, we
Yes.
want you guys to look up, look forward to the next session of this particular Azure Diner series. At this point in time, I want to especially say a big thank you to MVP Raphael And a big thank you to MVP Tosi for helping us, for helping us shed some light into this topic, Azure virtual machines. And I could see that, I mean, they were dishing out the knowledge gathered over the years. And I think that is one thing that is pretty much awesome about this particular subject of today. So at this point in time, right, I would like to say thank you for, staying tuned. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention, taking notes here and there, writing one or two things as much as you can learn. I promise to see you this week. Yeah, this week. I know we still have a session this week. I promise to see you this week again. And to MVP Rafael and MVP Tosi, I will say thank you very much once more. It was a pleasure having you on this session.
See you guys.
Yeah,
All right,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.